The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. You made it. Fridays here at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and you will get to the starting five. StreamYard shout-outs. As always, can watch the show. Hail Varsity Radio on YouTube. Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Hail Varsity Radio Twitter at HVarsity Radio. And wherever you want to hear us along the Hail Varsity Radio Network. 489-1240. 489-1240 or 800-825-5865. Can email Chris at hailvarsity.com. Give Elijah a follow on Twitter at Herbalessence, at Schmidt_radio for me. And you made it through. Fast week, slow week, or kind of somewhere in between. Think of the scene in Wolf of Wall Street where Leonardo stares into the old camera and kind of gives a sideways hand, maybe. It didn't fly by this week for me, but we've marched to Friday, weekend edition tomorrow at 7:45 tomorrow morning, so put that in your back pocket as well.
I was thinking the scene in The Wolf of Wall Street where Leonardo DiCaprio takes the Quaaludes and loses all touch with reality.
That's the obvious, right?
I thought that's where you were going in terms of the What This Week Feel Like, where you're dragging yourself across the floor, but there's a Lamborghini at the end because that's Husker football.
And yeah, right. And you want to see that part of the movie if you're a Husker football fan from yesteryear, where you're playing bumper cars on the way to the casa. You're being physical, right? You're slamming into folks and finding a way through. No, it was not the Quaalude scene I was going with. I was going with the boiler room scene where he's selling penny stocks. And kind of maybe, but no, good to be on a Friday edition with you. And we'll hear from Marcus Satterfield. We'll hear from Jalen Lloyd. Excited to have Jeff Maul with us here in about 30 minutes from Visit Lincoln. He's been a part of an effort to give folks a what's up about Lincoln and the great state of Nebraska. All those folks who travel into Nebraska, all of our new Big Ten brethren, or folks that have been in the league with Nebraska, going on what now, 13 years or something along those lines. But the point is this, Jeff is part of a group with the Big Ten that is given a 411 on what you're going to be able to do if you go check out a Nebraska football game coming in from out of state. And also different resources if you're traveling to some of those spots. I know, Elijah, you are going to be front and center of things to do in L.A. Before you invade the Coliseum.
The Airbnb has been picked. It has not been booked, but it has been picked. It has a hot tub.
Okay.
Looking forward to that. Nice big yard in the back. Flights have been half picked out. Okay. They have not been purchased, but they have been picked out. We still have some disagreement in terms of if there's a couple people going from Lincoln. Do we all fly together? Does it make more sense for us to fly separately? We have one ideal package that I think we can all make work, but we're still trying to determine whether it'd make more sense for us just to fly separately. So we're in the process of figuring that out, but LA is so close to being booked that we can almost taste it.
Okay. So there is that. Jeff Maul, Visit Lincoln in 30 minutes. We'll check in with Bill Doleman coming up at 5. Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7 in 15 minutes. And he is back. He's still imaginary. He's still wearing red. Clausborne going to join us at 5:40. 489-1240. So I had this experience last weekend. Carson's been dating a gal, and she's awesome. Her family's awesome. And we had them over for dinner. It was a big undertaking, not to have them over for dinner. That was great. But we just don't invite a lot of people to our house because we have 3 psycho dogs. And the other part of that is it was up to me and Junior to clean the house. We're not pack rats. We're not hoarders. We just don't have a house picked up all the time. I think some of you can probably relate during the week. And it's like, oh, bleep, it's Sunday. And they're coming over for dinner, excited about it. Junior and I went and golfed. Then we went and picked out the groceries. Could have gone somewhere, but it's like, no, let me cook for them. Let me throw stuff on the grill, and they'll either never be back or they'll really enjoy it. Mama was working Sunday. She's a nurse. So, again, Junior and I had to do the cleanup, and we nailed it. The house looked like we don't own 3 psycho big dogs.
So things were all set to go well, and then they met you?
Right. What's the sure thing? If you're having your kids' girlfriend's folks over, buying steaks, buying pork chops, buying kebabs, did some salmon. My sure thing on the grill is going to be the steaks. We won't disappoint. And we nailed it, right? At least they didn't tell us they got sick. No news is good news. And I'm relating that to Nebraska football. Big scrimmage tomorrow. Scrimmage number 2. 15-plus practices in. We'll hear from Sat in a little bit on that. But what is Nebraska's sure thing going to be on offense in the red zone? Let's talk about that for a second. What is Nebraska's sure thing offensively? What are they going to do better than anybody else in the red zone? What are they going to do better against some vaunted defenses, i.e., or at least some teams that can give you a headache, right? Ohio State, Rutgers, Iowa. I mean, those are going to be the difference between these one-score games. Taking care of the football, and are you getting 3 or are you getting 7 if you're Nebraska football? What's the sure thing? We'll go to the last cut here from Sat when it comes to red zone fade routes. You've seen a lot of highlights of it. You've got a quarterback that can throw it. You've got a bunch of big-bodied wide receivers, but it's still that back shoulder fade looks a hell of a lot easier than it is on TV than actually, completing that pass. And where's Nebraska at with that? You got a generational talent in Raiola at quarterback. You got big dudes at wide receiver. How's that process going? Is that a true weapon for the Big Red this year in the red zone?
I would love to do it all the time. I think we have huge receivers. We either going to run by you or we can throw the back shoulder fade. I think we've got to be able to use our big receivers' body types as a secret, as a superpower. And I think that's something that they do really well is be able to jump up and locate the ball. We've been throwing those since day one of spring. So feel really good where we are with that.
So, Elijah, that's a go-to play for Nebraska. Problem is, if you've got a 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" wide out, the quarterback knows what to expect. You still got to stop it. You still got to go stop Mo Purify from Zach Taylor, A&M poster time. You still got to stop Randy Moss. You've got the players that can be unstoppable. Can you go execute it? That's a high reward play, but it's a hard play to make. So what's Nebraska's sure thing? I'd still, and this is just me, I'd still love to see you slam it down somebody's throat and run the football in. Maybe I'm too crusty. Maybe I'm too old. I know you've got a thrower, but make them stop you running the football as a first resort versus the fade route.
Yeah,
am I too old school with that?
The fade route, I know you have big-bodied wide receivers. I'd go as far as to say it's one of my least favorite plays to run on the goal line. It's beautiful when it works. It makes you want to rip your hair out when it doesn't.
What are you doing throwing it from the 3?
Exactly.
Why are you going empty on 4th and inches?
Makes you want to rip your hair out when it doesn't work. I think the go-to should be running the damn ball inside the 10-yard line. I'm a simple man like that. You've talked up your offensive line all offseason long, the strides they've made. You have a couple of big backs in Gabe Irvin, Dante Dowdell, 2 guys that I think can get downhill and can run behind their pads. And, hey, whenever you need 2 yards, they can, even if it's contact at the line of scrimmage, they can fall forward and get you 1.5 to 2 yards. I love that concept. I think you keep the fade route in your back pocket to keep defenses honest and keep those cornerbacks from cheating inside. Like, hey, just so you know, if you try to cheat inside on something like a dive play where you can just go back shoulder over the top. But what I am really curious to see is RPO inside the 10-yard line. Does Nebraska want to utilize that? Because I just laid it out. I think Nebraska wants to get downhill. They want to run the football when they can. Matt Rule said you want to punish teams whenever they play 8 guys in the box. How do you punish a team for playing 8 guys in the box near the goal line? Well, 1, you get a one-on-one coverage on the outside and you run the fade route. Or 2, you get one-on-one coverage on the outside and you run the RPO so the safeties are looking downhill, and now you have
an open receiver.
Exactly. You have
linebacker can't be 2 spots at one.
You have a tight end going out to the flat. That's very, very difficult to cover whenever the corner out there has to worry about the fade route in the end zone. The safety's got to get downhill, but his eyes are in the backfield because he's watching the running back. I'm curious to see what the utilization of the RPO inside the 10-yard line is going to be, because that seems to be the natural counter whenever you say, hey, we're a physical football team, smash mouth, that's how we're going to play inside the 10. To me, the first natural counter seems to be an RPO, and then, hey, once they start sitting heavy in the flat, that's when you can go with the fade route to the back corner. That's how I see it. It's nice to have not only a punch, but a counter punch, and then a second counter punch that you can throw inside the 10-yard line. That multiplicity, that flexibility inside the red zone, especially inside the 10, feels big to me.
Well, what can't be is last year's red zone struggles throwing the football. Just didn't go well. Too many times ended in turnovers from start to finish with the season. You're not going to have that with Dylan throwing the football, but be able to be multiple enough. And you're right on with the RPO and what Nebraska can do with that.
Especially RPO to the flat specifically.
Sure.
Like make it an easy read and easy throw.
Spider 2 wide banana. Somewhere John Gruden is chanting that to find the tight end.
And do you know what that play also features that I'm curious to see in the red zone? That's the quarterback rolling out. Because you have that bootleg to the outside and then, oh, hey, here's the fullback or the tight end just leaking out into the flat right in front of you, easy pitch and catch. Also features the quarterback rolling out. How much of that do we see this year in the offense? Not just in the red zone, but as a whole. Getting Dylan Raiola to move that pocket, throw on the run, find some soft spots in the zone.
Do you have to move him? Based a lot on what your line's doing. Let's get our starting 5 shout-outs. NU Grandpa is in first. Sexy Grinch, formerly known as Crew, takes second. Red Flag Raiola says, I'm ready for week 0. Florida State, Georgia Tech from Ireland. Black Hills Brennan is here, along with Justin. Uncle Jimmy is in Arlo here, along with Patrick.
Can we talk about what Jimmy said as he checked in for the stream?
Well, yeah, Uncle Jimmy. And a lot of Hail Varsity fans are probably nodding silently. Said the wife is out of town. Hooray. Uncle Jimmy, keep it coming. Jeff Snitley is here, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty. Not first, but another day closer to college football. The other Dave says closer. 15 days away. Coach Brandon is here. Eat Beef says, thank God it's Friday. NASCAR Eric says, happy Friday, fellas. Walter is here. Aggressively Average says, let's have us a Friday, boys. Brent is here. Jeff is in. Mr. Erickson says, what's up? I'll be doing this a lot tomorrow. 3-putting says GBR. KG is in. Anonymous asked the question, if a Colorado linebacker happens to wrench Raiola's foot at the bottom of a pile, what should the response be? Good question. Great question. Cliff is here. Cliff, good to hear from you yesterday on the phone lines. They're already setting up when we start tomorrow's morning show. We've seen the time at 7:53. Vince is here. Vince, let's play some football already. Good to have you, Vince. Swayland 26. Okay, says Mr. Schmidt, I was able to shake your hand last year in Boulder at the Blur event. I'm just a huge fan of the show and never miss an episode. Swayland 26, we love you. Thank you for checking in with us today. Appreciate you checking in. Ronnie is here as well. And we'll get some more comments as well from those in the stream. Tiger Shark is here. Good to have Tiger Shark in. And Tiger Shark also says, I hope Uncle Jimmy's wife doesn't watch the show, because we highlighted Jimmy's comment. Let's squeeze in a little bit more Coach Satterfield, big practice tomorrow, big scrimmage tomorrow for Nebraska football. What kind of confidence can the offense gain or continue to gain? if you're running your head into a cement wall all the time, even though the defense is legit, Elijah, what's that do for you moving forward? You need to see some success. It's not that they haven't had some success, but a win or moments of wins tomorrow would be big for the offense.
Well, sorry, I like the example you use. If you're running into a cement wall every single day and then you show up week one and you have a loosely constructed wall of bricks in front of you, I'd feel pretty good about my ability to run through it. You know?
Right. But you want to go into that saying, we're not totally weak or average. But a little bit from Sat here, cut 3, that extra week of practice here before class, more chances to refine.
Just to be with them, just to have them with us. And I think, this isn't part of your question, but I think Coach has done an best I've ever been around this year of situational football. And I think sometimes when you run out of time at camp, you're trying to get everything in. You may not be able to spend as much time on it, but we just left a 20-minute end of game situational, he would call out situations we'd have to execute it, and I think that we're going to benefit that players, but especially coaches. We don't know the situations. I think having them an extra week allows us to do things like that and not try to speed through and get, all the plays in and, just check boxes, and we're able to just slow down and make sure that we get everything right and get to do these, these situational type things like we did today.
That's big. They needed to go that route. We mentioned situations, red zone. Super important. BC's next.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Good to hear from Sal in the stream. Hail Varsity YouTube. Can like and subscribe, watch the show. Sal says the offensive line is going to be just fine. I also put 500 at the window that Nebraska makes the playoffs this year. Sal, that's an incredible ROI. That's going to buy you a lot of Cornhead Lager.
And if you want an even better ROI, take that bet, parlay it, Bo Nix to win Rookie of the Year. It's a done deal.
Sure. Just set it on fire.
That's how you become a millionaire.
Brian Christopherson will have some better advice for us at Huskers 24/7 BC is where you follow him. You read him with Husker247.com. BC, how's your Friday, man? Thanks for the time.
It's good. I'll add to your parlay. I'd say you put Sam Darnold as the NFL MVP on top of that.
Let's be realistic.
Sideways.
Let's
real
be
quick.
realistic. Comeback player of the year, maybe.
So think of the cash there. I mean, you'd never have to work again.
No, you wouldn't. Do you think Darnold goes as Dwight Schrute for Halloween?
All right. Come on.
No, I'm asking. I'm asking.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Sam, we believe in Sam, us Vikings fans. I'm saying that with I'm saying that with not a lot of belief, honestly. But if you wanted to just take a real flyer and try to be rich and never work again, there it is for you.
We've laid it out, the investment plan for 2024. We've put our heads together, and that's what we've come up with. Future bets, and more future bets.
Hey, the longer the odds, the better your payout.
Right? So. Let it ride.
Yeah.
BC.
The more guaranteed I'll lose $1,000, basically. Is what.
Well, 30 minutes of open time. What'd you see? What'd you like?
No big shocks. I mean, here's what's interesting to me is, okay, Malachi Coleman's over there in a yellow jersey, and obviously he's, a guy you want to see out there, but it's interesting that, a year ago, if, one of the top 5 or 6 wide receivers were in a yellow jersey 15 days from the opener, you'd be like, oh, man. What's going to happen? You didn't feel good about that, and you're wondering how is this going to piece together as far as a 2 deep? Mm-hmm. And now you have that scene, and then you go over and you're watching the guys move around out there, and you have Alex Bullock come up to the podium, who played 599 snaps last year, by the way, 3rd most on the offense. And you're going through this is nothing against Alex, but he's bigger and a better player. But Nebraska's room is so much bigger and better there. You go through 6 or 7 names, and then you kind of come to Alex, and maybe he's higher than that. I don't want to sell him short, but you guys get the point. It's just it's really interesting. If you're out a little bit in that room, good luck, because Nair, Banks, Bonner, Garcia, Castaneda, Jalen Lloyd, Barney. I mean, it really is a deep room on paper, the deepest I've seen in a long time covering this team, and I honestly maybe the deepest. But now they got to go prove it. But that's what stuck out to me was that thought of seeing Coleman over there, and I hope he gets back soon and it has a big part in things. But also then okay, they're fine. They got guys.
Brian Christopherson's with us here, Hail Varsity Radio, and BC, one of the things that Marcus Satterfield discussed today was the competition that he sees in that wide receiver room. And I want to get your thoughts on that competition. Do you think it's more like the quarterback room or the defensive back room? And let me expand on that, because the quarterback room, yeah, there's great competition there, but we know what the pecking order likely is going to be if it isn't already pretty close to set in stone. You compare that to the defensive back room, especially that corner spot opposite Tommy Hill, where I wouldn't be surprised to see 3 or 4 different names that could be atop that depth chart by the time UTEP rolls around. What do you think the competition's like in that wide receiver room? Do you think the pecking order is already established, or do you think there is still some moving and shaking that needs to happen before game one?
It's more like the defensive back room, first off, but I think there's still some movement that can happen. I mean, there's a big scrimmage tomorrow, and that's obviously a chance for, maybe there's a guy right now who's like 5th or 6th, and he has a chance to move up a spot or something like that in the rotation. But it is, I think, kind of known who's going to be at the top. You've got Banks and Nair, and Bonner's always out there with the ones, and I understand why. He brings a physical presence. He's going to be a good blocker on the perimeter. And then Jalen Lloyd, it feels like any time there's talk about the wide receivers, you're hearing about him or you're seeing videos of him pop up from practice. So obviously he's going to have a big say in things. And Barney, by the way, every time we have access, he's impressive. Like, there'll be a throw and a drill that's off target, and he'll extend and catch it and keep his feet. Or he had one last week where it was at his shoelaces and he just picked it off the ground and kept running. He's a really impressive guy if he can know his playbook.
Brian Christopherson's with us. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Can find BC on Twitter at Husker247BC. What's your feel for how the offense has performed so far through camp from a confidence standpoint going against this defense? Have they had some success?
It sounds like they've done okay. They've held their own, I think. I was just looking at their passing numbers from last year, and yards per attempt were 116th nationally, and just total passing offense is 129th. And you think about what we've laid out in the first couple of questions of this segment, you're hard pressed to not think they make a jump to at least like the middle of the FBS. And whenever you talk to, and by middle of FBS rankings, I mean 50s or 60s or somewhere in there at least. That can be at least a bar to get over, and then maybe better. But then you take that and you talk to the defensive backs throughout camp, and you can just tell it's a different challenge for those guys. They're being tested by them, and the quarterback play I think has improved. Probably the best line of the day, though, was when Marcus Satterfield was asked about turnovers, and it wasn't a great quote or anything, but he was just saying, he knocked on the podium and said, they're down. We got to keep it that way, basically. So that's going to be the biggest thing. You obviously got some guys who can hit some home runs on the outside of your offense, but now give it away half as much or better than that, and you go a long way compared to last season.
It's Brian Christopherson with us here. And Brian, I want to go back to a discussion we had here in segment 1. Red zone offense. What do you think Nebraska's bread and butter is going to be whenever they move the ball? And we know Matt Rhule wants some explosiveness in this offense, but once they make it down into the red zone, if you're not able to score on a deep ball like he may want, what do you think this team turns to by the time you're inside the 20s or inside the 10?
I think Banks is going to be huge down there. He was at Wake Forest, and when you watch him in drills, he's got that box-out ability. where he just gets his frame in front of the DB, and that's mine. I think there's going to be some back shoulder throws. The Satterfield was asked about that today, which they try to do with better quarterback play and some receivers who, like Nair and Banks, are a little more experienced with that. And then I think Fedoni and Borkercher can probably make some hay down there. So they definitely have. What's nice is we're not just talking about like it's got to be this one guy. I do think they've got 4 or 5 options that pop in your head right away that you could see being pretty effective down there. And I know this sounds like we're drinking a lot of Kool-Aid. I think it's the time of year when we do that.
It's all right.
We also know though, like how low the bar was off the floor a season ago with the offense, and certainly it's going to be improved. I mean, it's just like it's not it might just be a massive improvement, and it needs to be, frankly, with the numbers they had last season. I think Isaiah Nair probably is a guy who I don't know what he'll do in the red zone, but everybody kind of brings up Banks first, and every time I go over there and I watch Nair move around and sort of his acceleration and just how he moves for his size, I'm like, man, that guy looks like an NFL player to me. I think he's going to have a good year if he can stay healthy.
BC will get you out on this. Brian Christopherson with his Husker 24/7 Sports. What role or impact do you anticipate for Ja'Cory Barney?
I think he'll be really tough to keep off the field under the 4 games. I expect he'll blow through the red shirt. The thing that is nice about him is even if he doesn't know his playbook inside and out yet, and Jalen Lloyd talked about that challenge for a true freshman and what it was like for him, Barney is still, I think, a guy you could use, like, running the football from the wide receiver position. You could probably do some fun stuff with him there. And then if when you watch the punt returners, I don't want to knock Isaiah Garcia-Castaneda out of the way because I think he could do okay with that job. But Barney's been back there as well, and I sort of wonder if at some point they're going to have the guts to, just go with the true freshman and see what he does back there in a position where obviously you got to be kind of fearless and just have that sort of instincts that you've had since you're 5 years old, like I can do this. And I think Ja'Cory Barney's just kind of cut that way. If you remember after the spring game, he was asked about the funny play where he thought Alvana was on his team or whatever, and he got tackled by the kicker. And he had a quote about, well, that's okay, I'll take one back against Colorado. And like that's him. Like that, I remember him as a recruit. That's how he talked. He's like, I was asking him like last year about the struggles with the passing offense. He's like, well, that'll change when I get there. So he's that kind of dude. And so I think with that mentality and just his skill set, he might be 5th or 6th in receiving yardage, but I bet he carves out a role and has an impact this season. I'd be really surprised if he doesn't.
BC, about 30 seconds, a pleasant surprise this weekend with Mr. Sanders and his announcement? I'm
not really expecting that, no, but, that's why we tune in even when we don't think something's going to happen just to make sure. But, yeah, Nebraska has done a really good job, like, putting themselves right there with some of these guys, and obviously Merritt comes to mind and him picking Alabama over Nebraska. You're kind of hopeful now, though, even if they lose like this one, like after if you can win 8 or 9 games this season or something like that, what does that do to next cycle when you have these type of recruitments where you're in the running with 3 other teams? Maybe the story's different then. So I'm not betting on it, but we'll keep a track on it just in case.
Absolutely. Brian Christopherson with us, Husker 24/7 Sports at Husker 24/7 BC. Find him on Twitter. Brian, thanks for the time today. Always good to get caught up, man. We'll do it again soon.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, appreciate you. We'll get to the stream. Jeff Maul, visit Lincoln on the way.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Welcome in Jeff Maul with Visit Lincoln. And he has been working on some awesome stuff. So much going on between ball fields, convention centers, and some new friends. Jeff, good to have you in from the Big Ten.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for having me. It's football season's on the doorstep. What are we, 15 days away?
15. We're Andy Dufresne in prison,
right?
Marking off days.
I know.
Waiting for the season to kick off.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And, when we first jumped into the Big Ten, it was like a new batch of visitors for our community, and that was a long time ago. And the landscape has certainly changed here in the last 6 to 12 months. Oh,
big time. Tell us what you've been working on in conjunction with the Big Ten for Visit Lincoln. There's going to be so many opportunities this year and beyond for folks to come check out Lincoln for a Big Red Football Saturday.
Yeah, I talked to, I was listening actually as I was coming in, Elijah talking about his trip. And so many times people, when they are thinking about things to do in the community, they go in for game day, they go in for the tailgate, they go to the game, they might stick around after. In tourism circles, we pulled all of the destination marketing organizations in the Big Ten together, and we said, you know what, we want to work together to expand the experience, because the ultimate goal is to build what we call shoulder dates. You go in maybe a day or two early, and you maybe stay a day or two late. And so the cities of the Big Ten, we partnered, we put together a great web platform to engage everybody out there that's traveling to a Big Ten city. So whether you're a Lincolnite or a Nebraska resident going somewhere in the Big Ten or vice versa, we want to engage people with the natural attractions and really what is the tourism industry on your travels.
Pretty awesome. We were talking, all right, what's the sure thing Nebraska will turn to with their offense in the red zone? Right? We're scratching our head about that. We think there are some clear options. There's more than one option when folks come to Lincoln, and that's part of the things you've been working on putting together to present to folks coming in from outside of out of Big Red Country.
Yeah, short of listing everything there is to do in a community, we could do that all day. It's on our website. What we really tried to do is focus in on the top 10 things to do in the community when you come in. Capitol's up there, the Museum of American Speed, the Lincoln Children's Zoo, the Children's Museum. Those are 4 mainstays a lot of people know about, but we really tried to dig into places that maybe people don't know are uniquely Lincoln. That's Robbers Cave. I mean, that is a really cool venue. The Licorice International organization and what they do, ice cream at Havana Cone. And there are a lot of coffee shops, Chris, in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Get that caffeine, man.
And you know the one we chose? Was it the Mill? No. You know what we did a little bit different? The charging station in Havelock.
Okay.
Have you been yet?
Working on it.
Yeah, you need to get there. Really good coffee, really good place.
It's fantastic.
Those are yes, thank you. Yeah. Great experience. And, we have 19 different coffee shops that experienced our coffee tour this year. I had no idea we had at least 19 different. That's not every Scooter's location. That is 19 different coffee outlets.
That's impressive. And then you've got a lot of options when it comes to Nebraska beer.
Yeah, I mean, the beer culture, the wine culture, what we're doing with those things, a lot of natural beauty. But I like to tell people in tourism, when we're talking to these people across the country, it's the people that make the place. It's the Chris Schmidts of the world, right? Chris Schmidts of the world make the place. And it's really about the hospitality that you experience here and when you go anywhere else. And when you walk into a craft beer outlet, when you walk into a bar, it's really the people behind the bar that are part of that experience. It's a lot of fun.
There's a lot of experts.
And Jeff, I think it should be noted, this isn't just for visiting fans coming to town. There's so many Husker football fans. They've been coming to games for 20, 30 years, and you talk to them, and it's, they go to the same restaurant on Friday night. They go to the same pregame spot before the game. They go to the same place on their way out of town on Saturday evening. I mean, there's so many different places that are always popping up in Lincoln. I think Nebraska fans that are coming from outside the city of Lincoln or even inside the city of Lincoln should really check out.
Elijah, that's a huge point, and I think we all become creatures of habit. We focus on what is routine, what is easy. I like to call them tourism blinders. This is where I'm going. Don't change. Don't tell me to go right. Don't tell me to go left. And it's really about engaging people. And in fact, this week I jumped on Facebook, part of Visit Lincoln in my role, and I talked about who are the people that are elevating the dining experience in Lincoln, Nebraska. What are the uniquely us restaurants? Who are the chefs we need to talk about? And those are the people we want to engage with on the tourism side, especially within the Big Ten.
Jeff Maul's with us in studio. We're talking Visit Lincoln. A lot of Big Ten foes/friends will be visiting Lincoln, Omaha, the state of Nebraska, maybe for the first time. And the one thing that's been well known about Nebraskans is the hospitality, the fun, the entertainment. And folks have raved for decades about their experience, and they're going to have a chance through your work and Visit Lincoln's work, and then the other brethren in the Big Ten laying it out for them. And it's convenience. I mean, it's taking care of people.
Yeah, and if you're out there listening right now and you're kind of flying through our website, go to Lincoln.org, click on Things to Do, scroll down to Cities of the Big Ten, and just give us your name, give us your contact information, and you will have that passport to every Big Ten city. Everything to do when you're in L.A., everything. We can't list what not to do in L.A., but we can list all the good things to do.
Well, I just got his pen out, and he's ready to. He's inside the 1 foot line here to get his trip to the Coliseum booked. Our correspondent on assignment for the middle of November, tough duty. So we're sending Elijah out to USC.
Things to not do. Wear blue in the wrong neighborhood. Wear red in the wrong neighborhood.
Right. I will tell you.
Viper room.
Tell you a quick story. We had a conference in L.A., jumped on the shuttle from the airport. We are almost into downtown L.A. Our shuttle breaks down, and on the right I have the place we don't want to be on the interstate, and on the left I have this very gated USC campus.
Yes.
I had no idea that campus just sits in the middle of a lot of less desirable areas. Had no idea. And luckily, Ponch and Baker rolled up in their Chips Harley or their motorcycles and got out, and it got us going in the right direction.
That's always a welcome sight when Poncherella just shows up, and
I'm like,
says,
I'm a big fan, Ponch.
Yeah, this is the turn to take, Mr. Maul.
Yeah, so it's the thing, and yeah, Elijah, take a look at the site. I mean, look at and see what some of the things are to do in L.A., and we'll talk to you more in November about that and see what the experience was like.
Or quickly, are there any Big Ten cities that are on your bucket list? Do you want to see them at some point here before you die?
Happy Valley, for whatever reason. I kind of want to get out there. Seattle's on the list. I've not done a whole lot in the Big Ten. I hear Wisconsin's a pretty fun and cool place to be. Mm-hmm. Outside of the fans can be a little raucous, but I want to be in that stadium when I can feel it moving.
They jump around with the best of them.
Yep.
We were in East Lansing for the first time last fall, and that was a good time.
Yeah. Real quickly, too, and I was looking at the names of other, I always look at what other visitors bureaus call themselves. We're Visit Lincoln. We used to be the Lincoln Convention and Visitors Bureau. You know what they call themselves in Happy Valley? Huh. The Happy Valley Adventure Bureau.
Okay.
Oh, that's pretty good.
It's kind of like Scooby-Doo-ish, right? They have the mystery machine.
Choose your own adventure.
Right? Yeah. So, we're looking forward to this, and lots of great conversations. And I've never been more happy with this community. The things that we've been able to do with Pinnacle Bank Arena, the things that we do talking about a downtown convention center, really raising the bar in youth sports, because youth sports is our number one market. And it's just a lot of fun. I've done this for 22 years. And I don't see turning anywhere else but forward and continuing to build the destination.
Jeff Maul with us here in studio, Hail Varsity Radio. Visit Lincoln with Jeff Maul. Hang on if you can. I want to talk ball fields, because that's
happy to do it.
Big passion. 2 baseball dads here and up across the way.
You're calling me a baseball dad.
No,
not yet.
Come
on, Blue.
You're an umpire. That's strike zone. But more with Jeff Maul. Bill Doleman coming up. He's imaginary. He wears red. We're less than an hour away from Clausborne. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, winding down hour 1 of Friday. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. You can watch the show, Hail Varsity, YouTube, Twitter at HVarsity Radio, along the Hail Varsity Radio Network. Jeff Maul with us. Visit Lincoln. Catch the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Really awesome stuff Jeff and Visit Lincoln are doing with everybody in the Big Ten when it comes to what to expect and go do in Lincoln, but also when you're traveling elsewhere to that road trip, 1 or 2 or more possibly, when you go see Nebraska on the road. Jeff, you've been such a supporter of youth sports for so long. We're both proud baseball dads, and you have this youth sports complex that's underway. And A, congratulations. B, well done. C, let's hear a little bit about where folks can go watch some ball, man, because tournaments are becoming to Lincoln.
Yeah, it's super exciting. First in Cornhusker, the Sandhills Global Youth Complex. It's definitely far enough along that you can. It looks like a complex. Yeah. It's got the fences up. We've got our poles up for the netting. The dugouts are in. gravel's going down, rock base is going down for all of our turfed fields, and we will be 100% artificial turf, field turf, and such a game changer.
It is, isn't it?
It's going to be amazing, and I don't think a lot of people understood. Like, my hard thing with this whole discussion was not being able to dig into the batter's box and not letting the dirt fly when you go into two and you're trying to break up a double play.
Right.
This was about playability. This was about a longer playing season. So 5 fields. We just established an amazing partnership with Nebraska Wesleyan baseball and softball. 2 new fields that will be their new homes. And then about a month ago, Troy Dannon and Will Bolt sat down with our team, and we established that we will be the new practice facility for the University of Nebraska baseball team. And people don't realize the struggles they have in the spring in this climate to get on a field that's natural grass because the ground is still froze. You're dealing with frost, and just a lot of great things happening over there. We brought on Joe Fagler as our facility manager. If you're listening out there, a lot of people know the Fagler name as associated with good baseball in this community. So I just met with Joe today. We're starting to put together the calendar, who's going to be on the fields, who wants to practice on the fields, what kind of tournaments we want to do. It's deep. The fun thing now, we're starting to talk concessions.
Sure.
Like, what are the must things you have to have at a concession stand? What do you need, Chris?
That could be a whole radio show.
It really could.
I mean, quite honestly, and I've seen other places do this. I don't want to open a can of worms, but there was a tournament once upon a time down in Kansas City where I could get a beer and a dog.
No beer. We will not have beer at the ballpark.
That's well, you asked.
Right. He wants beer. Elijah, what do you want? Okay, so if I'm going to give you hot dogs and hamburgers and popcorn and nachos, what else?
Frozen Snicker bars.
Okay, can do that.
Fantastic on a hot summer's day. You
Yes, sir.
You got to have the full range of different electrolyte drinks.
Uh-huh.
There's as an umpire, nothing better than a Gatorade and a frozen Snickers bar on a hot day.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. I'm always partial to a hot dog with some nacho cheese on top.
See, Elijah and Coach Foley are the nacho cheese hot dog brethren.
Kind of liking the nacho cheese thing on a dog.
Mm-hmm.
On the way back from Boulder, he just went all in, and the entire convenience store stopped, and it's like an Old West movie where the wrong guy walks through through the doors.
Yeah. So the other thing too, a lot of parents are saying is pickles for hydration.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
And pickle shots. We'll have pickle shots in the refrigerator for the kiddos to hydrate. So we'll be open in the spring of next year. Nebraska Wesleyan will kick things off with their spring baseball season, and we want everybody to be a part of something special out there.
Well,
one more thing, popcorn, fantastic at a concession stand.
It is.
And it's got to be freshly popped.
Boom. We've got a winner. Jeff Maul, Visit Lincoln. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Chris.
He's the pride of Fairbury, an average Joe. Bill Doleman, the professor.
I had a 6 ACT in 1967. One time I got an A and my grandma beat me for cheating.
Now with Hail Varsity Radio.
Hour 2 is here. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Big thanks to Jeff Maul, Visit Lincoln. We welcome in the pride of Fairbury, the professor, Bill Doleman, at Bill Doleman on Twitter, getting that syllabus ready to rock and roll. Billy D, good to spend time. How are we doing?
I'm doing well. I had an opportunity to listen to your conversation with Jeff Maul, who is a terrific guy and a wonderful representative for Lincoln and the state of Nebraska. He did not mention the numerous opportunities for fans to fly in to Fairbury International Airport. If you want to, for those folks who are visiting Nebraska and you want to ride the brick streets of Fairbury, go to a town that smells like bacon bits a lot of the time anyway. Visit the home of the Jeffs. I mean, there's just a myriad of things that people can do when you land in a major metropolitan area like that. He was talking about Los Angeles, and I was thinking, geez, it's like almost talking about Fairbury. But then when you get out to the suburbs and you get out to Lincoln, and there's nothing better than Nebraska, and you just want to make sure you get there the right time of day so the traffic's not bad, and but just so much to do down in southeast Nebraska.
Has the Visitors Bureau down in Fairbury put up a sign honoring the childhood home of Bill Doleman just yet? I know most notable people you can, so I assumed you would as well, but I guess I haven't checked.
I think it goes without saying, and put your resources some other place. but I think most people know.
So you can just ask a resident, hey, where can I find Billy D's childhood
That's
home?
code for the statue's not big enough.
Yeah.
I like it.
So,
Bill, big scrimmage tomorrow for Nebraska. We heard from Coach Satterfield. We'll hear a little more from Sat and Jalen Lloyd next segment. Want to get your takeaway, though, and this has been our talking point to start. What is Nebraska going to do in the red zone? 7, not 3. The theme has been chasing 3. What do you think Nebraska's sure thing can be on offense to get 7?
Well, as much as you might be tipping your hand if you put Heinrich Haarberg in there, I think that there's a legitimate package for somebody, like him to, if you're going to run the ball, you want to pound the rock. You don't want to, you don't want to say, okay, we don't want Dylan to get hurt, so let's put Heinrich in there because if he gets hurt, it's okay. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I think if you're going to have a package of plays for Heinrich Haarberg in the quarterback position, it is going to be running the football, and Matt Rule and Marcus Satterfield are just going to be saying, he's in there, you got to stop it. And I think Heinrich Haarberg, with his size, with his strength, I think every time we see a Chasing 3 episode, should have been Chasing 4, I think every time we see a Chasing 3 episode, there's a shot of Heinrich Haarberg, at the squat rack. He's always working out, right? Dylan Raiola's rolling out and lofting passes out there. Not to say that he doesn't work out as well, but let's face it, Heinrich's a big guy and a big, strong guy. And if you got to, get a yard or 2 on a quarterback sneak, then give it to him, right? Dylan Raiola is not your running quarterback. Can he pick up yards, gliding out? We saw him do that in the spring game. Yeah, but if I got him, muscle 2-3 yards at a pop on a fairly experienced offensive line behind Scott and Ben Hart and those guys, not left tackle, then let Heinrich Haarberg be your guy there. I don't care who scores a touchdown, just score a touchdown and not have a replay of what happened in Minnesota 2 or 3 years ago when they couldn't score from the 5.
Bill Doleman with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Bill, whenever I look back at fall camp, it's been all quiet on the Haarberg front. Like, we haven't heard much about him, and I understand whenever the media gets up in front of the coaches, it's a lot of questions about Dylan Raiola, the guy who's the presumptive starter. But do you think there's potentially some intentionality behind the coaches keeping Heinrich Haarberg quiet, what his role in the offense is going to be? Because I think a lot of people, myself included, assume there's going to be packages for Heinrich Haarberg. But that being said, we haven't heard anything that would indicate that. It just seems to make too much sense. You think it's intentional from the coaching staff that they're not mentioning other ways in which they could incorporate Haarberg into the offense?
Well, no, because I think they still want to, keep it close to the vest as to who the starter is going to be, even though I think everybody, who follows college football knows it's probably going to be Dylan Raiola. But I think if you don't talk about it, we've got a special package of plays for him, and we've got 4 games worth of packages for Danny Kaelin, then we're going to keep them all happy. I think if you try to maintain the messaging around the quarterback position and let everybody, talk about Dylan and what he has meant to Nebraska by coming here, his recruitment, all of that, and let that conversation play out. But if you start to say, well, we're going to get him on the field and let him do this to give him a ribbon, and we're going to let Danny Kaelin get his experience, I think that's the way it's all going to kind of play out. Dylan Raiola played well in the spring game. I don't think it's one of those things where you go back at that performance, and even though it was singular and it's a controlled scrimmage, I think we saw enough to know that this is a pretty special quarterback. But I think we've seen enough of Heinrich Haarberg based on what he did last year in leading Nebraska to 5 wins, is that's a tough kid, and he's a great athlete. And I've said this several times on this show and on the Average Joe Sports Show podcast, which people can join us on. Where is the first place we saw Heinrich Haarberg at the beginning of last season? It was in a tight end H-back type formation. They utilized him in the passing game at Minnesota. That still, I think, has to be in the playbook somewhere. And I think he's going to be on the field because he's athletic and he's a big guy. And it's not going to be as a tight end. but I think it's going to be in kind of an H-back thing where you're going to see him on the field because he's athletic, and I think he's probably earned it because I think he's got the respect of the coaches and players.
Well, and he's explosive. I mean, he's a matchup problem with that size and speed and explosiveness. Don't kid yourself. Yes, win ball games, score points, help the defense, take care of the football, showcase your 5-star as a Nebraska offense, showcase your all-ACC transfer wideout that is a jump ball machine, Nayor. I mean, use those guys. That being said, there's a little bit into this when it comes to style points or how you want to showcase your offense. It's still an advertisement. Yeah, the advertisement is the number next to the W's by the end of the year, but you're also every Saturday going to be showing off for not only the kids that are working hard to get on the field eventually, but future 4 and 5 stars you've been knocking on that door with.
You know, and style points are so important. And I heard Marcus Satterfield on the Big Ten preview show say, we're a pro style offense. And I don't remember his exact wording, but it was like, and we want to let the guys have some fun with it. And there is a certain style point, I guess, that players want to play in that offense. Recruits want to see that offense. Fans want it, all that. And I don't mean to be the, get off my AstroTurf lawn guy, but I can remember back in the day, it was like, nobody wants to play that option run game all the time. Okay, yeah, well, that's fine. We're 16-3, but that's okay. And I've told the story many times when we there was a time when there was a pursuit of Tom Osborne at the University of Houston when I was down there. And, one of the more famous players in Houston Cougar history who won a big award, told me they didn't want Tom Osborne down there because he runs the option. And I said, you won games or lost games 56 to 49. We won games 56-9 and, won 3 national titles. But, okay, we don't want to run the ball. That's fine.
Enjoy Shreveport in December.
Yeah, so whatever you do, you better be effective. And, if you want to be sexy, that's great, but you got to win games. And if you got to win some games that are kind of ugly, Nebraska's lost ugly, 13-10, 13-13. Nebraska would be fine. Nebraska fans would be fine if you grind out a November game and you win it, 9-7, and you have 175 total yards. It'd be better to have that W than to have somebody sitting in his living room with 500, letters from potential schools to go to. I'd rather have the win than impress that kid.
Bill, as you look through your long Rolodex of football memories, is there an offense or a style of offense that stands out to you as being the one that you would most want to play in or most want to watch? Like, say you're in the shoes of a 17-year-old kid watching college football. What offense makes you go, wow? Can you remember one off the top of your head?
Well, anything to do with the option. I loved it. And I talked, a couple stories. I talked to Bobby Houck, who's the head coach at Montana. And they've had great success there. And I knew Bobby when he was at UNLV, went back to Montana, did a game there. And we were talking because I think the game that I did was Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in Montana. And Cal Poly SLO ran the option. The only team in the Big Sky that ran the option. This is I don't know how many years ago. And Bobby had a great team. And he said, I'm glad this game is over because the option is by far the most difficult offense to prepare for. And it's the most complicated offense to run. It's the best offense ever designed in college football. But nobody wants to run it because it's not sexy to a 17-year-old. So I love watching good option football. That's what I grew up watching with Nebraska. That said, let me drop another name. David Klingler, who probably should have won the Heisman Trophy, another guy who played at the University of Houston, good friend of mine. He played on those Houston teams with John Jenkins. And I said, what was that offense like? That was like run and shoot steroids. I mean, it's not just run and shoot. It was on – they were like, well, let the other team score so we can get back out there. I said, how did that offense work? He grabbed a manila folder and he just wrote out all the positions on the field and 1 through 9 for the receivers. There's like 5 of them. And he just looked, all you did was look out and call out the route for each receiver, left to right or whatever it was. 17925. And that was it. He just wrote the whole playbook was on a folder. People can't see it, but it was just a manila folder like I have in my hand. And that was the offense. He said, let them score if they have to, but we want the ball back so we can go run things up on people. And it cost him the Heisman Trophy because they were scoring like 80 and 90 points a game.
They put up 90 on somebody. I remember that.
Yeah, and that game cost him the Heisman Trophy because they ran it up late in the year. That was fun to watch.
Bill Doleman with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Pride of Fairbury, the professor at Bill Doleman on Twitter. Can watch here on YouTube, Hail Varsity YouTube. Like and subscribe there on Twitter at HVarsity Radio. And hear us along the Hail Varsity Radio Network. Bill, are you going to chip in on this WWE Legacy title belt? It's in partnership. You've got plenty of SEC and Big Ten teams that have gone in. I see one. The 4 teams highlighted: Bama, Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame. But I don't know. How about a Husker title belt?
So what's the bet?
There's no bet. I'm saying this isn't. I'm going to show you. Brent McMurphy tweeted it out. I'm going to hold the screen up, and there's replica WWE title belts.
Oh, sure.
In association with colleges. I don't see Nebraska on there, but. Would you be surprised to see a Husker fan order one of these things and start rolling around with it and find their way to the South Stadium with it on?
A Husker fan or 1,000 Husker fans?
Maybe 1,000.
Oh my gosh! If something like that's available, you'll see a whole lot of people, coming to Memorial Stadium on game days wearing those and stuffing Fairbury brand hot dogs in their belt like they're their shells or something, like mortars, right? Grenades. There'll be little pockets there for those kinds of things. Husker fans would buy that out. What? They should have had Nebraska on there, and they would have been, operators standing by and busy 24/7. Mm-hmm. That's a bad marketing job right there. I could have sold a lot of them for them if I just put a Nebraska belt together.
They're all right. Do you ever have a replica WWE belt, Elijah?
Nope.
No?
No, never was a big WWE guy.
Okay. Doleman?
No, but we did have an esports contest prior to last semester, and Amon Green got us one because we had this in-house esports tournament, which I lost handily.
Wait, what esport did you play?
Dude, I have no idea. I asked him to let's have a Tempest or a Defender tournament, and he denied me, so I was out right away.
Can you describe the game you played?
Was it sports?
Yeah, it was some type of sport thing. I don't know what it was. It wasn't Mortal Kombat or either Call of Duty or anything like that. But
Rocket League.
But he got a legit WWE belt to go for the inter-office Continental Champion.
Mm. Yeah, I always got confused with the not confused, but. It just seemed like the Ultimate Warrior and those Intercontinental Champions, Honky Tonk Man, all those cats, their belt was cool, but they were just kind of the afterthought to Hogan or the Giant, the guys who had the WWE title.
Well, yeah, but you would have the TV champion, the Georgia Championship Wrestling TV champion, the AWA TV, and I'm sure you guys, this is the summer. Did you not have a show dedicated to the Boston Battler, Kelvin Sullivan, who passed away recently?
We did not. We failed.
See, now that was always radio gold for us in the summer when a beloved wrestler would
die of heart failure at the age of 51.
Away.
Yeah.
And I was doing the Olympics in 2016. We were talking about pro wrestling, and this guy who was the fencing analyst calls up Kevin Sullivan on his cell phone, and I got a chance to talk to the Boston Battler.
Hang tight, Bill.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
We'll get to some more of your stream comments. Brennan chiming in, Justin, Tuck. Trevor is in, wants the pistol offense with Johnson & Johnson. Good call there, Trevor. Bill Doleman with us here. Some overtime. Hail Varsity Friday edition. Clausborne 15 minutes away. He's imaginary and he wears red. Bill, Sydney Sweeney is trending on Twitter.
For good reason.
Yes. Not quite trending at that same level is driver's tests in Fairbury. What's the background here? Someone mentioned it in the stream?
Yeah, I saw somebody mention that I took my DMV driver's test on the brick streets of Fairbury, which I love, the brick streets of Fairbury. But, like when you grow up in a small town, you learn to drive when you're 12, right, on the dirt roads between the cornfields. So, taking your driver's test is no big deal. But you got to take the driver, you got to go through driver's ed. So you get that insurance break for your parents, right? So I'm taking driver's ed during the summer, and I'm not going to incriminate anybody as to who my teacher was. But one of the first assignments one day while we were out driving was to go out and get some gas at the bus barn. They got the tanks where all the school vehicles get their free gasoline. So go out there on a Saturday morning, and my teacher's a rather quiet guy. Like to light up a couple of Marlboros, during the day. And so he says, would you fill up the tank? So I try to get the gas gun off of the hook, and I can't get it unlodged. And I'm grabbing, and I grasp the trigger.
Uh-oh.
And gas starts, pouring kind of all over the place, including most of, my arm for sure, but on my clothing. So I finally get it off. I get the thing loaded up, or, filled up, and I'm a little nervous. And I said, could we go back to my place so that I could, change some clothes? No response, but he lights up a grid in the car, right?
He was watching all along.
Yeah. And now I'm starting to drive, and I look like Robert Hayes at the end of Airplane trying to stop the plane. You
were about to look like Richard Pryor.
Exactly. Just sweat pouring, and I smell like gas. The whole cabin smelled like gas. Now, obviously, nothing happened, but that was my that was one of my driver's ed lessons, and fortunately, I passed enough to get my license.
Mm-hmm. And the lesson that day: make sure you don't spill gas on yourself because Daddy needs a grit.
Yeah. So that was a little nerve-wracking. I don't know if that was part of the test or not, but made it through. Yeah, I looked like the guy at the end of Airplane, just sweating it out for a couple hours. Yeah.
Bill, before we say goodbye, Urban Meyer, Cowherd buying stock in Nebraska. This was yesterday's show. Take a listen.
Give me a surprise team in the new Big Ten. I know I've got one. Give me a surprise team that you've either been to practice, the coach. I think Nebraska could be very interesting. Nebraska's interesting to me. What do you think?
Yeah, you stole my thunder. I got a lot of respect. People know this. I'm a Nebraska fan. If I was a player, I'd love to go to Nebraska instead. History of the stadium, the fans are incredible. We coached out there, and they've been really down for several years. And I was shocked when on the sideline a couple of times we played against them. And, you talk about a team that didn't look like Nebraska of old. I just think he's recruited well. They got the transfer quarterback that Dylan that is a really good player.
Yeah.
And I like their coach. Their coach knows how to win. He's won at every level. There's a difference between winning and then winning at every level. And that's why I got a lot of respect for Matt Rule. So Nebraska would be my team. They're not good enough, Colin, to win it, but they're good enough to make some noise.
Bill, making some noise means what?
Well, at least going to a bowl game, at least winning probably 8 games, and at least pulling off an upset somewhere during the course. Now, for me, I don't think anything will be an upset. I think Ohio State has a good chance to upset Nebraska and Columbus, but I think Nebraska is probably going to, pull off a couple of wins on the road that nobody expects. And I would bet when those playoff polls come out, late October, mid to late October, and Nebraska's had a favorable schedule leading up to that game in Columbus, that Nebraska will probably be somewhere in the top 20 and will be in a playoff conversation. That's what I expect it to be.
I've said this for a while. I think the definition of Nebraska becoming relevant again and making noise, quote unquote, in the Big Ten is playing games in November that have relevancy to conference and top 25 standings. That's all it is to me. Like, if you are able to play in games that the result impacts conference standings, impacts top 25 standings, because either teams look at you as a team that could knock off a team that's in the conference title hunt, or it could knock off a top 25 team, or you yourself are in the conference title hunt, or you're a top 25 team. That's what relevancy is to me.
I mean, it's going to be there in November with the way the league has set the schedule up, where it's must-see TV 2 to 3 times a Saturday with the matchups in this league. And it is going to be cannibalism, and you'll have your top 2 safe with 3 and 4 vying. And then how far is that separation between 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and maybe 7? I mean, your top 7 all can be, you can talk yourself in here in August anyway, as playoff contenders. And if you're at 8 wins, 7 wins going into November with that slate Nebraska has, I'm not trying to sell you on a playoff dream, but hey, theoretically, and Matt Rule's teams do get better as the season moves forward. That's been his MO, along with 5-win jumps in year 2.
Here's something that I brilliantly said on this show, or Average Joe, or both. Look, this last year, Nebraska went into mid to late October and into November flirting with the bowl game, and then it didn't happen. And then the next week, so that pressure built up week after week to get to a bowl game. Then it was Maryland. I mean, after the win over Illinois, I said, make your plans, right? But it got down to the last 3-4 games. You had Maryland and the pressure, and they didn't get it done. And then you go into the Iowa game, and so they had the pressure the last month of the season to get that last win to get bowl eligibility. They're going to have that taken care of midway through the season. They're not going to be playing into November hoping to get to a postseason game. That'll be taken care of. And once they get that 6th and that 7th win, then it's going to be, how much better can this team be? How much belief and confidence does this team have? How much more mature as a player is Dylan Raiola? And how much are they gelling? And how good is that defense going to be? It's not going to be all on Dylan Raiola. It's just going to be his relative improvement as a true freshman. But that defense is going to get better and better and better. That receiver core is going to get better and better and better. So once they reach the plateau to get to a bowl game, it is going to be a much different second half of the season this year than it was a year ago.
It's Bill Doleman with us, Pride of Fairbury, the professor at Bill Doleman on Twitter. No, and they've felt that, right? They felt that a year ago, needing one more to get over that hump to get to postseason. That's why you have so many 6th-year guys back that know how to play ball. Now they want to figure out how to win. And it could all come together with an offense that complements an incredible defense, a deep football team, and possibly a big-time difference maker, but mature beyond his years at quarterback. And we'll see what they do to score points in the red zone, right? The sure thing, their bread and butter. Billy D, I will lose more money to you tomorrow on the golf course. Doleman grabs his 3-wood and hadn't swung in, as he claims, 10 years, and just laces one 285 down the middle.
With a wood?
Last Saturday. And it was absolutely incredible. And I'm like, oh. So this is you on the golf course, Bill, a bleeping natural.
And that was one of the 92 strokes. But nevertheless, every now and then we can uncork one, right? And that's what makes the game worthwhile. That one shot gets us coming back.
Some of us just get that one shot once every couple weeks.
Right, but you are still giving her hell. You're still playing.
I'm getting better.
But yeah, Doleman moseys up to the tee box, just swings away like he's Ted Williams, and just flies far and straight. Tiger Shark says, Bill, the jack of all trades. I like it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Billy D.
Or you could say the Joe of all trades.
Sure, the Joe of all trades.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, I will make sure you are well hydrated tomorrow so you don't hit him as far and straight. You'll just have to aim for the ball in the middle.
Amen, brother.
See you, man. Appreciate you. There
See
he
you, boys.
is. Phil Doleman with us here. Hail Varsity, and be sure to check it out on YouTube, Hail Varsity YouTube channel, Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Let's squeeze in a little bit more Satterfield if we can. Clausborne is looming at 5:40. So we'll have some observations of the week from Claus. Sat touched on that situational football, specifically the 2-minute drill, cut 6. That's going to be big. Nebraska's been emphasizing and focusing on that part of the field, that part of the ball game when it gets down to gut check time.
I think we've really emphasized, we're going to be in a lot of close games this year. It's going to come down to winning 2-minute. And, again, just the scenarios that Coach Rule keeps putting us in is going to make us really going to help us improve in that situation. We've got to be lead at it by the end of the year.
Got to do it. And it's going to come down to it. Get points, make stops, and make the plays. And I wish we had a look-see tomorrow to see how scrimmage number 2 goes after half a training camp is done. And it's going to be 1s and 2s, Elijah, versus 1s and 2s. It's going to be experience v. experience, relatively speaking. And how do they perform on offense tomorrow?
Scrimmage is at 10, is that right?
I think so.
Meet me at the Capitol, top floor, 10 a.m.?
You go to Old Father. I'll go to Hamilton.
We'll get Bill to go somewhere as well.
Doleman's probably going to be able to just walk in. Hey, fellas, what's up?
Walks in with T.O.
Yeah. Actually, T.O. walks in with Bill. Right? That's pretty funny.
No, still looking for that vantage spot, though.
Yeah, we'll hit some emails here coming up. And go ahead and submit your time hacks for tomorrow morning for the weekend edition. Stephen has been in with a post 7:50 a.m. start. I don't know that we'll be that tardy. So there we have it. 489-1240 to get in. And can email Chris at hailvarsity.com. Clausborne up next on Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We have the real Matthew checking in, says the German is causing an 8:03 start tomorrow. I don't know, man. I'll make sure Gertie's up and out. Sterling Schmidt, the Bernedoodle, is likely to start whining, being the puppy he is, to get us out of the rack early. So, yeah, we're efforting Claus, and we'll see if that happens or not. And, yeah, Gertie likes making show appearances on the YouTube channel, and pretty good. Pretty good to have her check in. Tuck says 7:56 tomorrow morning. Trevor gave up golf when I hit the ball 150 yards. So Coach Brandon says we get to 100 likes. Chris will start at 7:44. Is Kranak on assignment tomorrow? Did I remember that right?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Right.
Yeah. Was he?
You might be.
He might be.
I don't know. I'll find out.
Figure that
but
out.
We'll have the regular cohorts tomorrow. We welcome him in. He's imaginary. He wears red, and we love checking in Fridays, part of the forecast with Clausborne joining us here on Hail Varsity. Claus, how's your week? Thanks for the time.
Well, the week's going okay. I apologize for being a little bit late. I was scrolling through Instagram, and it looked like you had been golfing with the actor that played Jorah Mormont on Game of Thrones. But really, that's just Bill Doleman. I don't know what's happened to Bill over the years, but he looks like he's ready to sail to Essos to defend the Khaleesi. So good for him.
I love the Game of Thrones reference.
Now,
that's so good.
Claus, whenever you went Instagram, I thought you were going to go Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, that's where I thought you were going, dude.
Has Schmidt dropped a like on that post yet?
I am not following her, actually.
No, you don't have to be following her to like that post.
That'll be for after 10 p.m., but right now it's still family hours.
Wow. Claus is with us. Okay, well, Claus, I got to get your reaction. The Big Ten folks were in Lincoln this week, and our dear friend Cowherd had Urban Meyer on yesterday. We were talking to the Pride of Fairbury about this. How about Urban and Cowherd pegging Nebraska as a surprise team? What's your reaction?
Well, I agree with him. I think we're going to shock the world probably a few times this year with either how good or how bad we're going to play, depending on the week. But really, the surprising thing about that is that Cowherd took busy time out of his schedule, let's just say really talking up USC with a mouthful of Lincoln Riley's briskets.
Wow.
To even acknowledge that Nebraska has a football program. Less surprised by Urban. He loves Nebraska football about as much as he loves the co-eds at the Columbus Applebee's.
Oh, good. Wow.
Yeah.
Good assessment, Claus. Claus is with us here on Hail Varsity.
And Claus, as we keep the Husker football themed here somewhat, we had a topic earlier this week I want to get your thoughts on. Yeah. Plenty of Husker games at Memorial Stadium. We went through some of the moments that we thought were the loudest moments in Memorial Stadium history. Andy Janovich's touchdown run against Wisconsin. The Wester catch, Jordan Westerkamp coming down with the Hail Mary against Northwestern, both near the top of the list. Also Ndamukong Suh and his touchdown return following Alex Henry's kick against Colorado. Any moments that stand out to you as being the loudest moments that you can remember at Memorial Stadium?
Well, I think those are all good ones. I think we probably could have hit the Richter scale after Alex Henry hit that field goal against Colorado. But probably the loudest moment would have happened in late November, early December of 1997 when Bill Burns started screaming in rage when he found out that I was going to be stepping down, and he thought I was replacing him with another Game of Thrones reference, Tyrion Lannister. Turns out it was just Frank, who has about the same height-weight ratio as Peter Dinklage.
Wow. Tyrion cannot hold a candle to Fearless Frankie in push-ups. We'll just say that. Claus, thoughts on Coach Prime? 3 weeks from tomorrow, the Buffs are in Lincoln under the lights. Any PR advice for Coach Prime? Been a bit of a week there in Boulder.
Well, certainly he's had some issues with reporters, both local and national reporters, because he is an interesting story. And I'll tell you, I've been through that a few times myself. And quite honestly, you just need to calm down, Dion. You can't be going after every reporter. I mean, do you think I didn't want to go ham on Ken and Riley? You think I never wanted to go sicko mode on Sipple? You think I never wanted to wring Lee's barf neck? The point is this: when you're having trouble, just go to your happy place. And for me, that's probably fishing on Lake McConaughey. For Dion, it might be a certain type of dance club in Atlanta after a trip to Dreamland. But either way, whatever calms you down, you got to sort of focus on that when the waters get hot.
It's Clausborne with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. Claus, some news from yesterday I want to get your thoughts on. The ever great Nicolas Cage is set to play John Madden in an upcoming biopic. Your thoughts on how Nick Cage is going to be able to play John Madden?
Well, if the man can steal the Declaration of Independence, I'm sure he can figure out how to portray an old football coach. But I'm just surprised they didn't go with that fellow who's been doing the impersonation for years and years. Also a bigger guy, can really do the voice. I can't remember. Is it Frank Caliendo?
It is Frank Caliendo, yes.
Right, and caliente is the one Spanish word you know. So
Baño and cerveza.
I knew it was between them. Oh, yes, and cerveza. And I'm sure the waitresses at the Mexican restaurants really appreciate it when you speak it to them that way.
Mas cerveza, por favor. Okay, Claus, who would play you in a biopic?
Well, they'd have to be someone who's tall with red hair, so possibly Tilda Swinton or the Wendy's girl.
The Wendy's girl?
I know he's not doing anything now, but Conan O'Brien might be a good choice.
Okay. I was thinking back in the day, though, Robert Redford could have done a decent Clausborne.
Well, I've been mad at him ever since he screwed over Captain America at the SHIELD offices, so I don't want to associate with anyone that backward.
Claus, hang on. We got an Oregon question for you before we say goodbye, okay?
Okay.
There he is. More with Claus. He's imaginary. He wears red. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, podcast the show, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Give us a review, good, bad, or ugly, with Hail Varsity Radio on your podcast platforms. Like and subscribe to YouTube, Hail Varsity YouTube, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Weekend edition on YouTube and Twitter tomorrow with the weekend edition, 7:45 with Hail Varsity Radio. We have Tiger Shark chiming in. Harrison Ford should play Claus in a biopic.
Hey, let's get into that really fast. Biopic. Is it biopic or biopic?
I go biopic.
I've heard it both ways. The one that swayed me was it's short for biographical picture, biopic.
I go biopic. Claus, you want to weigh in on what you want it to be called?
I'm going to have to say biopic because biopic sounds like some kind of procedure that I don't have the insurance for.
Well played. Last thought here, Claus, is we'll let you get to the weekend. Appreciate you much as always. Dan Lanning, fueled by Mountain Dew. Drink of choice for Claus is what?
Well, I've got a couple depending on the situation. Of course, early in the morning, nothing beats a hot black cup of coffee coming out of the big, tall cylinder at the church social. And then occasionally I might mix in a grapefruit juice or really just a regular glass of water, which I know probably sounds boring, especially when I'm speaking to a couple of hosts of a radio show that sounds often like it's fueled by Appletinis and the original Four Loko. So
we're Cornhead Lager guys, Claus. Can we send you some Cornhead Lager?
Well, I can't I can't say no to that. I just can't also promise that it won't be gone by the time it gets to the kitchen.
All right, that's good. Claus, you have yourself a weekend. Thank you for giving us a few minutes, a little overtime today.
Okay.
There he goes. Imaginary wears red. Clausborne on Hail Varsity Radio. I can't wait to get back into the forecast. We have the forecast, Friday forecast, where we pick a handful of games and we go around the horn with our predictions. Got to do a better job of keeping tallies.
On who's right?
Yeah, for sure. Or just Claus's record. Let's keep us unscathed.
The problem with us is, like, how bad do you want us to look?
No, there's been some 5-1 weekends. There's been some offers. So you can look at it a couple of different ways when you're headed to see your friends at Ameristar. Either totally go against us or, hey, we were on it that week.
You could argue that considering we're going against the spread here, all we're really looking to do is go just over 500 with our picks. That's a good
60%.
Yeah, 60% is a good
Put
result.
us in the Danny Burke neighborhood. Right? Make a living.
Get us banned from the casino.
Make a living. But weekend edition tomorrow at 7:45. We were all over that Thursday night football last night. Plenty of thoughts as we gear up towards the scrimmage tomorrow morning. The second scrimmage, as we'll see what kind of mood Matt Rule's in after the scrimmage. And hit him far and straight, man. You've been playing a lot of golf. Keep after it.
Trying to get myself right.
Papa Al, shout out to you. Papa Al brought 2 monster T-bones to me. So it's grill and whiskey time. Talk to you tomorrow, 7:45 with a weekend edition. Thanks for tuning in to Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.